Tamaraos and guests from the Institute and the other institutes, welcome to our online lecture series. We have just finished our first set of online lecture series, which covered the fundamentals of research writing. And today, we welcome you to the fourth part of the Institute of Education, Graduate Programs, and Transnational Education's online lecture series. I am Shini, and let me be your moderator for today's lecture. To begin and jumpstart this event, we will have the Dean of the Institute to give the opening remarks. Let's have Dean Harold John Colala.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chini. Dr. Chini Aparicio is our program head in the Institute of Education Graduate Programs and Transnational Education. FU community, colleagues, and guests from other institutions, attendees overseas, and everyone who is tuned in our Facebook Live via FU official Facebook webpage. Welcome to the fourth part of the Institute of Education, Graduate Programs, and Transnational Education online lecture series. It is my honor to welcome you all and give you a little introduction about this lecture and our speaker. This fourth installment of our online lecture is part of our commitment to deliver quality education by sharing with you some valuable and timely information through our competent faculty members. The Institute of Education Graduate Programs is home to dedicated educators and competent researchers. The featured speaker this afternoon belongs to our roster faculty members who is not only adept in pedagogy or andragogy, but have established good reputation in the field of research. Our faculty belongs to our department with 100% faculty engagement in research. This series was created with you in our mind, as we know that many of you would like to find the motivation and the knowledge needed to create your space in research and teaching during this time of pandemic. We thank our speaker for helping us achieve this goal of extending our institute's commitment to deliver accessible, quality, and research-based education. As a Center of Excellence in Teacher Education, awarded by the Commission on Higher Education, we uphold the value of research and quality teaching and learning, and we commit to strengthening the teacher education as a discipline in our country. Let me now give you a short introduction about our speaker for this online lecture. As mentioned, we pride that the featured speaker this afternoon belongs to our roster of faculty members who are dedicated and competent in instruction and research. Our featured speaker today is Dr. Heidelberg DIMARUCOT. He specializes in teaching sports science-related courses and sports management subjects. Dr. DIMARUCOT has bachelor's and master's degree in teaching physical education and Doctor of Educational Management degree. He has international publications in ASEAN Citation Indexed Journal and the book Curriculum Evaluation in Physical Education Program. Dr. DIMARUCOT's research interests include the following: program evaluation in education, sports performance and health-related allied, sports management, teaching and learning modalities in higher education. Dr. DIMARUCOT's nickname is Denden. We call him Denden. Colleagues and guests, it is my privilege to introduce to you our faculty in the Institute of Education, Dr. Denden DIMARUCOT.
Thank you very much, Dean, for the grabe yung intro. Talagang it really pumped my energy, and sabi ko, the introduction itself does not put me to drink any coffee at all. I think it's more than enough. Thank you very much, Dean. Okay. before I start, I really wanted to share this with you because recently we are bombarded with a lot of issues and challenges because of this pandemic. Um, it amazed me so much that the Far Eastern University, not specifically on a specific institute or college, but the entire university has its own strategic manner. How will they able to come up to give these students um, to, to whatever learning modalities they are trying their best to reach out. Eh, it is not new to us that um, some of the other universities, because of this pandemic, are in closure. That's why I think in some point I am very thankful, and the students as well. I think it's very thankful as well that the university is coming up with a very strategic manner and how will they able to cater with not only those who has the capacity to acquire education, but those who are also the last, the least, and the lost. And I give credits to the entire university at the same manner to our beloved dean and all the administrators of the Far Eastern University. I hope in little ways na we are sharing and we are equipping not only the teachers but also the students. Because at the end of the day, I really believe that we educators, regardless if we are administrator or a regular faculty or a specialist, we don't just impart knowledge, but because we always and we always touch lives. Okay, to start with, um, when the Institute of Education, specifically the graduate studies, asked me what would be my topic, as I look at the Commission Higher Education, before we called it triangular manner or the triangle of how the university must see education. It's the publication or the research, the community engagement, and the other one is instruction. So this one, I hope in my little way of sharing my knowledge, I'm not suggesting or saying this is the best in this hard time. It's just that maybe in a glimpse of it, if we are trying to being, it's hard for us to adopt maybe a different type of modality. Maybe you can see or pick something from it that you could use as that will lighten up and make us more energized in teaching, regardless if it's face to face or full online or asynchronous or synchronous. The title of my presentation will be Adopting Flexible Learning Modalities. If it's a learning modality, it's not because it does not focus on the learning, flexible learning itself. Many teachers nowadays tend to use it very loosely. Um, I hope as I pushed and try to share my knowledge about it, um, flexible learning is something that we can consider. It is applicable full online or asynchronous and synchronous. But let us not forget that despite the hardship of the teachers who's preparing for, I hope all the students who's watching this presentation might also consider that your teacher is trying their best for you to acquire the knowledge, the best they could offer. And I hope uh, this one will help. To start with, to start the presentation, as we all know, the Commission on Higher Education is a government entity that governs the both public and private higher education institution. Um, they are the one who's crafting the policies and guidelines. That's why this one also came from them, specifically mentioned by Prospero de Vera, the chair of the Commission on Higher Education, suggesting that implementing flexible learning can start in August. However, other institutions also have their ways and means or adopting a different style on how they will able to give or they can disseminate the form education their student needs. Some other institution does not apply the flexible learning because they think that their structured learning or the type of education is much more suitable for them, and then they only follow a certain recommendation from the Commission Higher Education, but as per academic freedom, the institution has the capacity to suggest also or to implement what type of learning modalities they are going to use. As I go on, the flexible learning focuses not just on one aspect. It focused on the pace, place, and mode of their learning, according to Gordon of 2014. Um, it does not focus merely from the teacher, but it focuses more on the student. Just to give you a glimpse of what it is all about, it could the education or the learning acquisition can in the form of e-learning, open access learning, maybe through online. This is very accessible to all of us. Can be resource learning, pardon me for the spelling, and self-directed learning. The flexible learning also have its principles. Autonomous learning, it allows or maybe requires the student to learn it from its own. It could be in the form of guided or self-paced. Collaborative learning because a collaboration of the teachers at the same time with the students. Being creative as well and being skilled. Flexible learning or online learning is a form of distance learning as well. So this is, I think most of the teachers are not new to this anymore, but I think it pays off also to recheck or reevaluate maybe what it gives us or what we can get from this type of learning. Okay, it has a different dimension. Um, if someone asked me, sir, what if there are only four dimensions that a teacher can use? Can we still consider it as a flexible? The main purpose of this flexible learning is it does not focus on the teacher. It focuses on the choices of the students where they can acquire learning on the pace that they want of the given consideration. First would be the time. Given the given the amount of duration, as an teacher, an excellence of teacher education, or any university has its what we call deadline. However, prior to the deadline, uh, the student may opt to when he can study, when he will um, the momentum can be in the perspective of the student, not by the teacher. So if we are giving enough time for our student to learn and we are just following a certain guidelines, that will be okay because especially in this hard time, I think it pays off to understand them as well. Give them the amount of time to comply. But then again, we never compromise the objective, the outcomes, and of course, we never compromise the excellence of the quality of education. Second would be the location. It is not something new to us because even before, unnoticeably, it is being practiced. Student can learn from library, at home, coffee shop, um, from a certain place they're comfortable. So flexibility of location is was occurred even before, so it's not new to us. Mode of delivery. Um, Mode of delivery. That's why we are. The university is in the rigid training of using Canvas and Microsoft 365. These are the type of deliveries that we are going to use for the succeeding um, maybe semester or and I give credits to the again to the administrators and because they despite the pandemic they they never forget the last the least and the loss of the students. These are the students in remote areas. um, the Far Eastern University, I think it's the only university I've seen that's using or going to adapt the analog. That despite of little connection or little connectivity to the internet, we will able to um, give education in the form of analog to our students. And I I haven't seen that for some university yet. And this is one of the best mode of delivery that the university has or have. And I give credits to those who really put so much heart and time to think about it, to come up with the analog learning style. If we are pertaining to utilize, it really depends on the personality of the student. If he or she is comfortable of learning it individually, then he or she, a student can opt to that. However, as I mentioned, if the personality of the student more comfortable of doing it by a pair or by other classmates, it's called a collaboration. Or being doing it by a group. So these are types of dimensions of flexible learning that maybe we can also recheck or evaluate. Next would be the content. In other universities, um, given the specific topics and discussing the specific outcomes of the program, students have the option to choose what kind of program that he or she would really would affect the the future of the students. Even before, as I mentioned, it is being practiced. Students have the capacity or have the option to choose what kind of program or course that he or she may enter in the university. For example, the Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science or the Bachelor of Accountancy. These are the type of programs, or there's a lot of programs that a specific student can choose from. Followed by the organization. Organization pertains to, as of the moment, I think it has a limited capacity because they don't have infrastructure. Most of the learning is being take place from our home. I hope everyone is not limited to their own place, and it pertains to a specific infrastructure that's from the school or a home-based learning, or as I mentioned, maybe they have a specific place to study. Lastly, would be the requirements. Okay, this is a very controversial part of the flexible learning dimension. It's because despite the fact that we are giving so much time, location, mode of delivery, learning style, content, or organization, requirement is something that's not being embraced in the past years. A best example of this, me as teaching physical education for almost 15 years, I was once approached by the student, sir, I don't have I don't have the talent to dance. The objective of the dancing was to show nationalism or patriotism, and she just suggested that I know some ways to for me to show patriotism and nationalism. Would it be in the proper of writing an essay or a poem? Would it be possible for me to create a presentation that tackles nationalism as well? Because, as she mentioned, if I am going to base from a specific type of activity, which is dance, I think I will not able to comply with the requirements because I'm not capable of dancing first. However, the student, upon convincing the student na maybe you could try for a bit so I can see. If not, given given the flexibility of choosing the type of requirement he or she or a student can give you, might be also considered. However, as mentioned always by any administrators or any school, we never compromise excellence. We can consider the dimensions, but lowering our lowering the quality of teaching and learning, it's not arguable. Okay, so some of teachers might ask if it could be a mix of some dimensions, but should not be limited to one, because it will not be able to call as flexible dimensions as well. So I hope teachers, I know in this hard time that it's very challenging for us, and I appeal to my colleagues and maybe in a glimpse of uh, flexible modalities, we can revisit some factors of it that we could use. This is not for us. I know every teacher has the heart to to teach. Um, maybe we also consider the capacity of our students as well. Next would be the glance of the flexible learning. As mentioned by Prospero de Vera of Commission Higher Education, we call it 4 Ps. It's the pace, the place, the process, and the product. Pace pertains to where can we go through learning experience. Is it by a self-paced or teacher-led? So as you can see, this is highly understandable. The place, where can I experience learning? Is it through a distance learning, wired or non-wired? Or as I mentioned a while ago, I give so much credit to Far Eastern University for the initiative that we are able to will apply the analog one. So this is something to due to me specifically, but this is in our own little way. We can help our students to be how they educated, or at least they will feel they are not the least among other students. The process would be, how do I experience learning? Is it through printed? Is it by non-printed or by modular? Is it by online? Or as I can remember, last week when we do had a meeting, the laboratory based is one of the challenges of the university. Are they, and I know if a subject is pertaining to a laboratory, there is also what we call augmented reality. Uh, Other universities are adopting this because, and again, as you mentioned, it's an augmented reality that they can also experience. So, last one would be the product. If we are talking about the traditional one, we are talking about the manual or the automated. So how will they able, or us teachers, how we will able to see an evidence in what kind of form? As a physical education teacher, sometimes it pinch my heart that because of online learning, I can only see my students performing through the World Wide Web. However, I believe, and despite the fact that I can't see them face to face, or there's no physical classes, giving the consideration of this, we never lose the personal touch. All we have to do is to make them feel they are being appreciated and all of their works are being recognized. To strengthen it, aside from flexible learning, it is accompanied by sustainable learning as well. So it always focused on the gain of the student, not on a specific output, but from the education as a whole, from Bode and Solar of 2016. I really would love to share the seven sustainable assessment practices that we can use during the time of pandemic. I know some of our beloved teachers, teachers or colleagues are doing this. Maybe we just have to, again, as I mentioned, maybe we can revisit and recheck if we are doing it in the midst of pandemic. Okay. There are 7 principles of good feedback and practice according to Nicole McFarland in 2005. One will be the clarity of what performance is. In order for our students to come up with a very good output, we have to remember that we have to we have to give them an example or exemplar that what are we, how we will they be judged, or maybe the best example for this is the rubrics. As a teacher and as a student, if they're going to look at our CIB or the module and going to look at this specific criteria, how will they be graded, they will understand. At the same time, we can always explain them how it will be run or what will be the part of the 20%. We can always show also an example. So I think most of our colleagues understand that some of our students are audio visual learners. So if they will be able to see an exemplar example, they will understand fully. So it's clear already. Facilitate self-assessment. As teacher, we not obliged, but in our social responsibility, we have to tell them honestly what they are lacking and what they are good at. We have to constructively to tell them what are the status of their output, what are the room for improvement, and at the same time, let them think. Um, Despite the fact that it's a it's a very good and promising um, write up or a research output, it it is subject to revision for not just for the criticism, but it's for improvement. Next would be deliver high quality feedback. As I mentioned, as teachers, our students will appreciate more if we will be more honest enough to tell them. Let me share something that if I'm conducting an online class, I make it up to the point that I'm not just giving comments today to the output or their papers. I'm using, well, most of us using Canvas or the conference or the Microsoft Teams to tell them maybe we are lacking something here or there are missing piece of the paper or address the issue properly. I think you have more the words are redundant or maybe we can say if we don't understand a specific part of the paper, we could honestly ask them to explain it. Our students, we will more appreciative that we as teacher reading their um, papers or an output. From there, from that point, you will see your students na, sir, how will I able to rephrase it? Or how will I able to come up with a good paper? Will you able to help me if or will I able to can I access your permission for me to ask during these hours if I do have questions? So these are the type of teaching and learning style or methods that very essential to us as a teacher. Next would be encourage teacher and peer dialogue. It it is common that most of the time we are giving them a feedback, but as a teacher, I think let us hear our students, hear them, why they decided a specific type of, or why what their thoughts about a certain issues, or what do you think about proposing this kind of research? Let them um, speak from their heart, and you will understand. All of our students are capable enough to be more creative. Sometimes they are just as scared to tell teachers that, sir, can I propose this? But then again, as I mentioned a while ago, we never compromise excellence or we never compromise the quality of education. In my own little opinion, as long as I'm hitting the outcomes. And then maybe my student will have another option of, as I mentioned, it's a requirement. Form of requirement, they can express themselves. It's I will appreciate more because from there we can see our students be more creative. It's positive motivation and self-esteem. Sometimes it saddens me that some of my students saying, "Pungit kasi ni ano eh, hindi po ako makapagsalita," something like that, or nahihiya siyang magtanong, or not all of our students have the same personality. Maybe prior to our start of the class, we can ask them, "Oh, how are you? How do you? What keeps you busy this week?" Something that personal touch is not so personal, but you know, something that they will be comfortable of. That we show our concern to them. Despite the fact that we give something constructive criticism, we always put their them as well to in high regard. It's not us after all. It's the main purpose or the main reason we exist as a teacher. It's because our students. So I hope we appreciate that and we consider that we encourage positive motivation to them. I know some of our students are hard-headed or pasaway, but look in the deeper part of the students. They, they will follow you and they will, sorry for the term, they will always follow us because we are their teachers. But we will appreciate our profession more if we will see them from their heart that they are more willing to move or they are more willing to do their task, not just because it's required. It's because they love attending our class or they learn so much from us. Next would be provide opportunities to close the gap between current performance and the performance expected of teachers. That's why from the previous performance, from your constructed criticism, you will see how our students improve. And with your guidance, I know teachers around the world they know this. It is food from food for our heart that see our students progress. Feedback, last one would be use feedback to improve teaching. It is not just a responsibility to teach, but to improve ourselves. As an educator, um, the challenge for us to innovate, to improve our teaching, to be the best of ourselves. It's the same manner we lift our students as well. So if we can see our students improve, learn, and at the same time appreciate what we are doing, you will see a lot of, or maybe a new type of teaching strategies or new learning modalities that you maybe can adapt for the next semester or adapt during your course, or I mean the semester itself, or the learning duration. You will improve yourself. And as a manifestation of this, teachers are not born as an excellent person right away. We can see good gurus, we can see an excellent educator because they learn from a lot of experiences. In order to learn, we have to open our heart and mind that we are capable of learning. And as a teacher, I think this is coming from my heart. Personally, I think it's not just skill and knowledge that we impart our students, but at the end of the day, we always touch their lives. And that gives us so much fire in heart that we appreciate why we are teachers. And I hope in my little presentation, I hope some of it you might take from it, not because it does not justify flexible learning is the best learning modalities as of the moment, but it gives us a glimpse. Maybe we can try to consider, not from being traditional or not so strict. Maybe we can try to consider also our students, because this is not from the new normal. I've heard this already. This is before this is the new normal, as you can see in my in the PowerPoint. But it saddens me that as of the moment, we cannot go to the four walls of our classroom. However, as a teacher and educator, it won't stop us to deliver quality education and touch the lives of our students. Thank you very much. If you do have a question, you may type it uh, on the Q&A box, and I would love to answer each one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc Dan, for sharing with us some timely information about sustainable assessment. So we currently have questions here on deck. Okay, so we have here from Michael, a graduate of FEU batch 2009.
Hi.
Okay, and the general science major. So the question is, can we include learning packets as part of flexible learning if my students can't go online 100% due to internet issues?
Okay. This is a very timely question. As I mentioned a while ago, it depends on the institution of what type of modalities they are trying to adopt. If your institution will adopt a type of analog, or we call it a correspondence learning, the institution will give you all the learning modules in a semester in a piece of USB. So even if you don't have connectivity, the student will able to answer each module on their own time and their own pace. But it depends on the content of the module as well, on how the learning will take place. So again, I think all the universities and colleges are challenged because of this pandemic, and it caused us education reform. So again, yes, it is possible 100% online on a very strategic manner on how will they put the learning materials and at the same time the assessment. But it doesn't necessarily mean sustainable assessment will not take place. I think us teachers has to do not more, but our social responsibility as a teacher to ask or be open to our students from their inquiries or questions as well, in order for us to help them.
Thanks, Michael, for that question. So we now have another question from one of our attendees. But before that, let me greet our graduate studies students taking up masters in PE. So we have a lot of students here saying hello. Okay, so here is another question. Doc Denden, what is the biggest shift in assessment in the current situation? Maybe this is like comparing the previous to the current assessment mode.
That is a very good question because it's very relevant nowadays. Now, it really depends first on the type of modalities that we are going to use. The biggest shift would be in the aspect of, in the context of physical education. Just an example, we tend to do an actual performance task. So, medyo sanay kami dyan. So, we need to see the students and able to dance, to perform. But in other classes, the big shift would be, it will be through online. Now, if you are assessing a performance through online, it will be very difficult. However, if the module that you are about to give that will equip them despite of the self-paced. Okay, the module will the learning materials or the content inside the module must be very informative. At the same time, you have to include what type of assessment you're about to do depends on the outcomes of a specific, maybe a specific week. Because if we are assessing, for example, I think we've done this during our college English speaking on a laboratory. Diba parang magsasalita or we are able to talk during that time. This one, the teacher can still assess you in different ways. If you are not comfortable enough to do online face-to-face teaching, online face-to-face learning, the second option would be the pre-recorded one. You will have on our end before we do have a script and we are able to read it and record it. And then right after we are submitting it to our teachers, so from their end, they're going to hear, or at the same time, the video, they will look at the gestures on how we are able to speak, the intonations, and a different thing. Now, as I mentioned a while ago, it depends on the requirements. You will ask the student and the requirements, what type of requirements and also can give you in a very easy manner without compromising the quality. Because as part of the, for example, as, as part of the Data Privacy Act, if the student doesn't want to, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't have the capacity to do it live, us teachers must have other options or a flexible method. So I hope I answered your. It really depends on the big shift would be how we're able to assess them in a flexible manner that we are not neglecting the quality of education, the quality. So if we are more comfortable of performance, maybe a pre-recorded one, and that would be good because the student will able to check if they are performing well.
And I guess the student can also have a sort of reflection, right?
Yes.
Then this is the time when students can have sufficient time to reflect on their own learning and then assess themselves before they'll be able to submit their requirements to their teachers,
And you
right?
will see, actually, this is one good part, no? One of my students from the undergraduate um, doesn't know how to do dance properly because we are not given the gift of locomotor or motor movement. So what he suggested during that time, maybe we can do uh, a specific dance, a specific dance. Sir, I don't know how to dance a dance form. Maybe, but I can try to dance a social ballroom. Then right after, if you're going to assess now your students, they will be more happy to talk about it, and you will see how will they progress, and you will love it. It will give us so much fire in our heart, the excess, and also justify the existence of us being an educator.
Okay, so from something flexible to something sustainable, I think we have here a question that is something authentic. It's from Fatima, a faculty of NDJC Senior High School. So hello to the faculty of
Fatima.
yeah, senior high. So that Fatima has a question, and it is: our institution is applying distance and correspondence learning. How can you recommend any methods on how to lessen cheating?
Okay. Um, that is a very good question, no? Because even before, okay, Uh, Maybe we put it on a different perspective. We put it not in the cheating manner, but let us revisit what we are trying to give them. Okay, if we put so much strict, or how would I say this? It really depends on the learning materials you're going to give them and the type of assessment. When we said it's a correspondence, I think there's no connection at all. However, a, a study of 2017 of McGregor in the Philippines, it's 62% of the total population using um, an online platform where they can check their social media and what more during the pandemic. I, in terms of the assessment or the cheating per se, let me go back and let us recheck what we are trying to assess. As I mentioned a while ago, during this hard time, wag naman tayong masyadong, alam niyo yun, let us put our assessment in a very realistic manner. Or the smart. It should be specific. It should be attainable. It must be realistic, time bound. It should be like that. Um, I'm not saying the assessment, the type of assessment is wrong. I'm not saying the learning materials is bad. It's just that maybe we put some consideration. Can we have another type of assessment that will not compromise the type of learning outcomes? Or are we in a box that we have to assess them to a quiz? Okay, there are different types of maybe, okay, another strategy would be the assessment can be sent through online. Again, if it's a correspondence, um, this is a total no connection at all. It is given, they were given a module, if I'm not mistaken. I hope we, it's very hard to assess if, not hard, but maybe we can think of another way. Okay? Aside from the quiz itself, we could, as mentioned by Dr. Aparicio, a qualitative one or a reflective journal can be done aside from a quiz. From the reflective journal, you will see or you can read how capable your students of, for example, if they are answering a math subject or an English, from this end, you will understand the are they from the reflective journal, it must be congruent, or how would I say, the same message that they are. First would be you have to check the quiz, and then use the reflector journal to reflect if it's how knowledgeable is your student. Okay, parang cross-checking lang siya. The other one, the least one, if you will be given a chance to have an online platform, it's the three of those is a very good form of assessment already, or the methods. But then again, if it's a correspondence, I think we can give our trust to our students, and as teachers, we can process them. We don't, as I mentioned a while ago, just don't give them skills and knowledge. We always touch their lives, and that's more beyond the education because we inject values. So if your student will be more committed enough, and they will understand that if they will cheat, I know this is very easy to say, but you can see your students naman eh. You can see your student how dedicated they are. And prior to that, I think you have a, a pre-existing evaluation kung talagang a student do it honestly. Ganyan. So, I hope we will find, we extend our, how do you say this? We extend our consideration.
Thanks, Doc Dan. I think we've had our quota for the Q&As to our other attendees. I'm sure Dr. Denden would accommodate your questions and would be glad to respond to your questions using the live event Q&A of Microsoft Teams. So again, thank you very much for joining us in this fourth session for our online lecture series. And I would like to thank the marketing and communications office headed by our very own Sir Christian. Thank you, Sir Christian, for facilitating our live event on Facebook. And thank you very much to Miss Jenny for helping us with our streaming using the Microsoft Teams. And of course, a big thanks to Dr. Denden.
It is my privilege to be part of this. Thank you. I give credit to the administrators of the Far Eastern University, specifically the IE, Graduate Studies and Undergraduate Studies. It is an honor.
And we are equally honored to actually share with our audience, share with our professionals and our future professionals what we have in the Institute. So we look forward to having you again as our attendees in our next series, in our next online lecture. To our attendees, please do not forget to sign the evaluation form that was posted by Miss Jenny so that you can provide your feedback for this event, and we can also hand over your e-certificate. So this is Chini, and we hope you can join us again next week for another lecture, which is about a very special topic to cater on our special students with special needs. God bless you, everyone, and mabuhay Tamaraos. Thank you, Doc Denden.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tini. Alive pa rin ba tayo?